In everyday situations, a common enemy can quickly create an alliance, sometimes instantly. When you've got a common enemy that threatens your life, well, some things have to change. Welcome to Mornings with Bishop Robert. Hey, thanks for joining me on the top spot on the internet for Beverages with a Bishop. You know, my goal is to introduce people to the Jesus they never knew, then help them get to know him and his word personally and better. So if our time together today speaks to your heart, let me invite you to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. It's always better to win a fight to the death. I mean, it seems like the sort of thing no one would need to have explained to them, right? I mean, if you're sitting in a coffee shop, minding your own business, well, you're probably not even speaking with the lady and her 3 kids in the next booth. But if fire erupts in the kitchen, you'd both be grabbing children and running out the door to safety. Common enemy? Fire. Common goal? Save kids' lives. Hey, 2 minutes before the fire, if you'd started running out the door with one of her kids, she'd be screaming for the police. But a common, life-threatening enemy, well, that changes everything. Now her thanks and her praise, that'll be all you hear. Sometimes, the situation creates instant alliances with people nearby. You know, there's an ancient proverb you've most likely heard that says, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." I think the earliest reference to that might be a 4th century book describing a system of political rule and foreign relations. It was called Rajmandala, means circle of kings. But the application of the concept goes way beyond trying to rule a nation. And that brings us to today's verse. Let there be no divisions in the church. Rather, be of one mind, united in thought and purpose. Hey, recall the fire in the coffee shop illustration with me for just a moment. Let's consider all the things that wouldn't matter a bit when you notice the fire starting to spread. Things that some people may have seen as barriers to striking up a conversation in other circumstances. Well, there could have been a significant age difference. Gender might have been a factor. Perhaps language may have played a role. I mean, it's not uncommon to hear folks speaking one that you don't. I mean, the list of things that didn't matter a whit could go on and on. Living situation, political preferences, church attendance, goes, doesn't go, which one they attend, favorite sport. I mean, on and on. Well, look, another illustration. Sometimes I engage in great conversations with other passengers when I fly, but often we don't. And that was likely the case for most of the passengers on U.S. Airways Flight 1549 that was headed from New York City's LaGuardia Airport to Charlotte, North Carolina on January 15th, 2009. Little substantive conversation probably took place between the passengers who really didn't know one another, until the plane struck a flock of birds shortly after takeoff, losing all engine power. After Captain Sully Sullenberger turned the Hudson River into a runway, suddenly 155 people had a common enemy. They worked together, and all of them survived. Common enemy, common goal. Now, you may have noticed that both of the illustrations I've given this morning have to do with life-threatening situations that are environmental, not personal. Sometimes, however, you're actually the specific target, if not a general one. I mean, if you find yourself in an active shooter situation or a similar terrorist incident, well, the risk increases exponentially. I mean, this is all the more reason for everyone in that critical situation to band together as they try to survive. Nothing requires greater determined cooperation and focused application of every available tool and skill, like being hunted by a well-armed enemy who's out to kill you. And that, by the way, is precisely the situation in which the church finds itself. One would think having an experienced and well-equipped enemy whose sole goal is to steal, kill, and destroy the church would cause us to instantly bond together, ignore any differences, and fight our common enemy. If only. It's not for lack of leadership, mind you. Jesus Christ, himself, the very cornerstone of our shared faith, has commanded us to operate in unity. Like passengers on a stricken aircraft, we may have begun as strangers. But now that the plane is going down, we better get our act together and cooperate if we want to survive. Paul the Apostle writes to the church in Ephesus and reminds them that they're no longer strangers and aliens, but they are fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God. They're facing the persecution of Rome, and they'll be better off if they face it together. Today's verse says, "Let there be no divisions in the church. Rather be of one mind, united in thought and purpose." Jesus commanded our unity. Our King has issued a command, a royal decree. To disobey is unlawful. And to refuse to cooperate and aid the enemy, that's treasonous. You know, if you do a search on the internet, you'll find hundreds and hundreds of articles with commandments and rules and suggestions and ideas for how to get along with others at work. I mean, there's a variety of suggestions, but the articles I read all had similar opening positions. You know, you can't pick your coworkers. The boss does that for you. The boss or the owner is the one paying the bill, so he or she gets the final say as to who plays on the team. You know, your job is to focus on your job. Let them focus on their job. And then, cooperate as harmoniously as possible when the two intersect. Then the articles delve into specific suggestions like, drop your ego, remember the golden rule, don't argue or complain, show respect, etc., etc. Hey, wouldn't it be great if Christ's church would apply some of these rules? I can almost hear Jesus saying, look, your job is to focus on the job I gave you. Let them focus on the job I gave them. And then cooperate as harmoniously as possible when the two intersect. And stop arguing, because I have you doing different jobs in different places. When we get our egos and logos mixed up with our mission and purpose, everyone loses. And people die without Christ. If we were determined as the church to love one another, more people would find life in Christ. If we were sacrificial in our cooperation and insisted on showing one another more honor than we demanded, people would come out to find out why we love each other the way we do. Jesus said so. He told us, "A new commandment I give you, that you love one another just as I've loved you. You also are to love one another. And by this, all people will know that you're my disciples, if you have love for one another." That's it. He's given us the key. He showed us how to do it. He said, "As I have loved you." Let me be blunt. As if I haven't already been blunt. Our head works perfectly. See, Jesus Christ is the head of the church. Our head works. We are his body. The head is sending precisely the proper instruction and delivering sufficient energy for the body to move and accomplish what the brain is instructing us to do. But though we receive perfect instructions, our response is uncoordinated, weak, and stiff. We're not hearing our instructions well, seeing our mission clearly, or speaking his word with power. And each of those things I've just described, those are symptoms of a medical condition known as cerebral palsy. That's a disorder where the body doesn't respond to the commands of the head the way it should. We need to be healed. We need to obey. You know, elite military units are known for their organizational pride and, frankly, even for their rivalries. The good-natured jesting and jousting, say, between the U.S. Marines and the Navy is one such example. But there's dozens more. But these units know when to lay branch identity aside and focus on the mission. These units use a phrase that we need to hear, a credo that we need to embrace. One team, one mission, one enemy. Let's rise up together. Let's face our common enemy in unity. And by the grace and power of God, let's accomplish the mission and win the battle. See, in this fight, the enemy of my enemy isn't my friend. They're my brothers and my sisters. Hey, folks, the family feud needs to stop. Needs to stop now. It's time to win or die. And it's always better to win a fight to the death. Well, I've run over time, but before I go, can I ask you to help me introduce people to the Jesus they never knew and help them get to know him and his word personally and better? Would you please like this video? It really does help more people see it. Then click follow or subscribe so you and I can get together every single day. If you click the link in the description, I'll get a free copy of my book, Count to One, dropped right into your inbox. Hey, one more thing. Would you please share this video with a friend? Because as you do, well, you're part of the team, touching hearts all over the world with the love of Jesus. Thanks for helping.